There was so many people speaking to me going, hey, we're f***ed because there's legacy tax debts. And I was like, have you heard of an SPR? And they were like, no, what is it? Because I was like, how do we do this?
Accountants don't know. So if accountants don't know about it, lucky to be graced with the presence of Danny Rants. Welcome, Danny.
What's going on, man? You good? There was no roadmap to say, hey, after a pandemic, this is what the world looks like, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So you've got all these venues currently in Melbourne that are completely specced out with $1 million fit outs with no one in them. Guys like Dom Doa, that guy played in these clubs that we're seeing right
Dom?
now. Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's from Melbourne boy.
Is he?
He would have played behind us right now.
Mate, even if you were to address the legacy debt, pay 20, 30, 40 cents in the dollar of that, being able to trade profitably moving forward.
Difficult, not impossible.
All right, everyone, welcome to the MG Academy. Something a bit different today. We're in a nightclub, and we're lucky to be graced with the presence of Danny Rants. Welcome, Danny.
What's going on, man? You good?
Oh, yeah, hanging well, bro. Like, getting in there. Thanks for making the time to sit with us and have a chat. Mate, just a bit about you and your background and what you do and where you've come from.
This is our room is one of the probably the best way to explain where I come from.
Yeah, right.
So the bright lights and dark, dim lit spaces is
like the green.
Is my heart ground, is my heartland. But nightclub owner, entertainment, worked in music management, and since I was 18, so for the last 2 decades. And when it comes to Melbourne, the grimier the nightclub, the more attracted I was to it.
Yeah.
Mostly predominantly dance, a lot of hip hop, really every genre that's existed.
Right.
But that's my forte, sort of my thing.
So you still have a nightclub?
No. So I sold my nightclub in 2022.
Rightio.
And now I have an alcohol company.
Right.
That started, we say, made by club owners for club owners.
Rightio.
And effectively, it's gotten way bigger than that now. But when we first started it, we made brands of alcohols for clubs to sell.
Okay.
So like wet pussy shots. Then we do like shot variations like sourpuss.
Yeah.
We do like hospitality, which we call like best friend, but it's like a cheap vodka that's high quality, looks good, but doesn't look cheap. So we'll make cheap alcohol that looks presentable rather than like looks like it comes from a bathtub.
Yeah, understood.
And so we do a lot of that sort of stuff. But that brand now has gotten so big that we are no longer selling to nightclubs. Like that makes about 10% of our business.
Yeah.
Originally it was 100%.
Yeah.
And then over the last 4 years, now we're at Coles, Dan Murphy's, everything.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You obviously got out for a reason, right? It's not making a profit or it's not working well. What you said 2022, that's post-COVID or right in the middle of COVID. What were you seeing around that time, man?
So what happened with me, man, like prior to that, we had like the glory days, right? So probably 2018 before was the glory days. You could put on an artist, you could do 1,200. Every single club in Victoria was busy on a Saturday, a minimum Saturday. Yeah. And then our club was busy on Thursday, Friday and Saturday. That wasn't an uncommon sort of theme at the time. Yeah. And Melbourne was pumping. Clubs in general were pumping. 2018, there sort of seems to be a little bit of a shift in culture. Yeah. A lot to do with festivals. So it was like an oversaturation of music festivals.
So music culture had changed, is what you're saying?
Kinda, but like it was more like clubs were starting to become not as appealing to kids.
Right.
So like prior to that, I guess nightclubs were like a meeting place. If you went out, catch up with friends, you came to a club. And then what was happening was kids were saving their money. And I think Instagram, the fact that we're watching like Europe and travel and they had like other things that could entertain them, they started to like spend their money in other places.
Yep.
So prior to that, 2018, if you were 18 to 24, you just went out. Like you drank 3 nights a week, that was what it was. So we started to see a shift in like people drinking and we started to see a shift in like actual entertainment culture in a sense. There was a bunch of music festivals and before that, music festivals used to be like 50,000. There'd be like 3 a year.
Yeah.
Or 20 to 50,000. Then what happened was this like kind of like sub-niche festival boom.
Yeah.
And then there was like 100, 6,000 people festivals.
Yeah.
And then every single genre and sub-genre and there was like raves and warehouses and what would happen is that we went from having to compete with festivals 3 times a year to every single weekend there was multiple mini festivals in Melbourne.
And drawing the people out.
Correct. And then we would you got lucky sometimes and they'd come into the city, but over time they stopped coming into the city. So then things were getting tougher and things were getting harder. So
then you're stuck with things like the fixed overheads, the rent. People aren't there spending the money, so the revenue drop.
And we're in a space where we rely on government who stipulates our rules and regulations, but they don't speak the language that we speak. So what happens is they come in with us all the time and they want to take, but they don't really give a fuck if it impacts us. And the reason why they don't care is because they actually don't, I think, want us here because there's a stigma that comes with nightclubs that's negative, and that what they don't hear is a stigma of the positive, which is like the fact right now, currently, electronic music is the biggest music in Australia, 10 times. So in Australia, we listen to electronic music 10 times more than any other genre. Yeah. Per capita, it's the most listened to genre in... when it comes to Australia in the world. The artists that come from here, our biggest music exports currently are electronic music artists. All were born in nightclubs. So despite that, we're still the dirty stepchild. So that's the good that comes from it.
Is that interesting?
And all they care about is the fact that, someone might do a pinger here and there. So therefore, they can't seem to be supporting us, even though there's all these amazing things that are coming from it. You talk about football or sport, the government fund it heavily. But right now, when you talk about the biggest artists in the world, from Australia, even some of the biggest artists in the world, they're electronic music artists from Australia. They were born and raised in these dark rooms that we sit in right now. But we don't get any grassroots funding. So over time, it was the other way around. We're getting taxed. So our security went up. We were paying back then $35 an hour. Went up to 70. That was a government. The security didn't ask for that. Then they put up the rates for bartenders. Then they put up the rates for APRA, which is like a body that charges you for music. Which is
every time you play track or something like that, right?
Yeah, but it's a little bit, I would say, corrupt. People get upset when I say that, but people aren't getting paid that should. And there's it's sort of like a funnel effect where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer in that sense. But that's another one. Then they created another one called PPCA, which is like a subtext of that. Then licensing went up. Then insurance went up. So that was a post.
Insurance a big one, yeah.
Massive one. So then so what was happening was the pool of people was getting smaller, and then the overheads were getting higher because they were pushing them up from a government standpoint and like regulation standpoint. So then it was like in 2019, I'm like, it's really hard to make a crust in this job. And I was working late nights. I'm missing all long weekends. I'm missing Christmas time.
Kids, all that
I'm
stuff.
missing weddings. I'm missing all that important stuff. It started to be like the trade-off was like, well, this isn't really worth it. Like, and there is a risk component to it, right?
Of
like
course.
I've got people watch my stuff. There's lots of stories of guns and like overdoses and all the crazy stuff that happened. So it got to a point beforehand I was like, I'm happy to deal with this because it's a good way to make a crust, But when you
it's
start
also part of the fabric and the culture, bro.
Of course. And then when I was like, dealing with this shit, and I was like, fuck, okay, got to go to the cop shop because something that I haven't done. It's happening in the community or in our ecosystem.
But you're the rep.
So I have to go in there and chat to them, and I'm like, okay, well now I'm making fucking no money. I'm struggling to pay the bills, and this bullshit no longer is worth the juice is no longer worth the squeeze. So then 2020 comes, we get closed down, which I thought was never going to happen. And then they opened.
So you actually got closed down?
In Melbourne, we got closed down for a full year.
Of course.
Over 2 years.
So that was through the COVID, right?
COVID government, yeah. So we were the most in the world. We were the most highly regulated / banned industry in the world when it came to Melbourne nightclubs. So we had a full year of not operating.
So, okay, just on that, right? This is an interesting point. Were you guys so during COVID, there was the COVID relief and the $700 or whatever it was per week for each person, and there was the companies got paid or reimbursed those monies. Was the entertainment industry part of that? The performing arts is that how it worked? Like, was that a double? Was that like a kick in the guts?
100, man. Like, so to get $700 when I was owner of a nightclub that I had mortgages and I had assets and different things that I had to pay
for.
Man. $700 is fuck all. But the other thing too is in our industry and world, because we only operate for 12 hours, we don't have a lot of full-time staff.
Yeah, of course.
So we maybe had 60 people working in our ecosystem every weekend. But we only actually had 5 full-timers. And so we were only able to get that relief for those 5 people. So the other 45 that relied on us from a part-time perspective, they never got any relief.
So you're going out of your way to support these people too, no
doubt?
Tried
to as much as we could. But
you never knew when it was going to reopen. You need to let the people there. When it's on, it's on.
Well, the actual truth of the story was when it happened, I had to fire every single person. So I called them and said, hey, we're all fucked. So when this comes back, either it comes back, call me, you've got your job. But unfortunately, it's kind of every man for himself. I myself went the night after COVID shut us down. I started working in the Melbourne fruit markets.
Oh yeah,
because
it's pretty cool.
I had to do something.
Hustle, bro. And
then I worked in a bottle shop, and then I started up like a company selling pies. Long story, but I was getting the $700, and I needed to make more money, so I went straight into the workforce. And I had built my career over 17 years. To a point where I was reputable, I was successful, and I had to go back and I had this full year of like hustling and grinding. Like it was probably great for my character, so I don't want to complain. It was the best, worst thing that ever happened to me. It was insanely busy. Like everything, you could just fucking...
What, the nightclub scene?
Oh, I was fucked. It was insane.
People just ready to explode. Like, we've been locked up, let us out.
So we had like 6 months and we opened up, and like I actually did one in this venue, and I sold 2,000 tickets in the same venue we're sitting in now. I sold that.
Who was playing? Sorry,
it was like an event called Debbie Does. So it was like a local artist, a group called Orchestrated with the Headliners.
Right.
If you're from Melbourne, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we did them here, and I sold 2,000 tickets in like 3 hours.
Right.
So the drink prices was no specials. Like it was money. Felt like it was free. It was coming in. So basically, when it reopened again, it was like the floodgates came open. And we're making good coin. So I was paranoid we're going to shut down again. So I saved.
So you're trying to make the most of it.
And then I was right. So we shut down again. So I used that money.
So how long was that window, sorry?
The first one was like over a period of 8 months on, off. And the second one was 9 months on, off, but it was worse. So the second year was actually worse than the first year. The only difference is that, there was some access to grants and stuff, so we could kind of get through. But you definitely, those 2 years, and this is something that people don't talk about, nobody in my industry made the same amount of money they were. They made a quarter, a third, but you're talking like a career kind of component. There was 2 full years where we made a quarter of what we normally would make. And it was like, so it kind of like halted us, but at the same time, we didn't know anything else. This is our skill set. So it wasn't like we could just go, and a lot of people did. We lost so many good hospos because they went and worked in construction, or they went and worked in real estate. They went and worked in industries that were safer. So even now we're still feeling that kind of like wake, because.
That's interesting. So hang on. So you came, you reopened, you went to live a fucking bang, right? When like off it went, like, and then it closed again. You were right. But then when it returned, it may have taken off steep growth, but it plateaued and never reached. It dropped, or it just...
it went up. So when it came out of 2022, and like this is almost like I feel like I had I could read my own fortune.
Yeah.
It happened again, and we were getting like double the bar spend. So traditionally, back then, if you got $30, $40 over there, we call it per head. So $34 is like how many drinks you buy. So you normally punter will buy like 3-4 drinks, right?
Yep.
So that went to like 80. So it was double. And I'm like, this is fake. Like I could tell from someone who's been working in Spain for 20 years, I was like, this is not sustainable. This is not going to stay here. This is fake. So it was, at that point, I went to my partners and I was like, hey, I'm going to move on. I'm going to sell out. Because I knew it was never going to get higher than that again. So I sold out of everything. My entertainment companies, my club nights, my nightclubs, the whole lot.
Wow.
And then I got all that coin and then I invested that into the alcohol company because it was safer.
Yeah.
And then I moved on. And then 6 weeks later, not months, 6 weeks later, it just crashed. And then we never, ever have recovered since. So those, back again, using the example of the per head, per heads were 80. They used to be 40. Now they're like 15, 20.
Well, this is the thing too, Danny, right? Like, so you're saying this is fake. You're kind of noticing it. And why was it fake? Mate, because people were out there trying to spend money. So the tax office wasn't chasing tax debt at the time. Landlords and stuff like that weren't meant to be chasing. Banks were on the... So people are like, I've got this money, stuff it. I've been locked up for so long. Let's just spend the cash.
Low interest rate too, right?
100%.
Yeah.
So they're out there spending all this cash that they actually don't have. It's not their money.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying? So then they're sitting there, and now we're sort of in this position now where we're dealing with that kind of backlog of cash.
100%.
Yeah, and the tax office is now like, well, we want our money. Like, where the hell is it? Mate, it's been spent. It's gone. This is done.
But then the other thing too is like you got people, so use that as a term, like what you're talking about, and like that position we're in currently, you've got all these people got all this money that they didn't know was going to fall out like out of nowhere. No one had any idea. That again, using the word roadmap, there was no roadmap to say, hey, after a pandemic, this is what the world looks like, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So they get all this money, they're getting rent relief, they're getting whatever. They haven't made money for 2 years, so they're like, we're making it up now. So and then everything just changes and shifts, but all your expenses are higher. All your staffing's higher.
Because the spending's, exactly right.
It's just catching on. So then what's happened is with this venue, which no doubt you guys are dealing with, and we're in your space, is there's this fucking massive influx of broke venues that are going broke every week. So even currently,
I've seen them, bro.
I had an event this Saturday booked. I sold 400 tickets. We were going to hit 800, and the venue went broke. This week, literally yesterday.
Wow.
And they went broke because they couldn't afford to pay this
So when you say it went broke, it's gone to liquidation or...
It's so early, like I don't know what they're going to do yet, right?
So you're not going to run it or...
I can't run my event because they can't afford to pay their staff and their security this weekend because that's where...
So they're leaning on you saying, hey, Danny, mate, you want to pay some of this so you can
And they did, and we said, look, we can't because we can't trust, because it's in the space now where I'm like, well, if I give you the 10... I don't know if you're going to actually be able to pay me back, and then the risk that I'm going to wear the risk.
Are you going to open?
How are you going to open? So we decided to not do it. So I've lost an event. For the whole time I've ever lived, I've never ever had events that have fallen through my hands because venues have gone broke. It's happened to me 3 times in a year.
Yeah, right.
Where venues are like, we actually can't afford.
So are they giving you reasons as to like, okay, they've gone broke, but is it a particular person that's chasing them? Is it something that's just like, I don't have the cash flow now to pay the wages to open the door? Is it someone who's garnished, could it be the tax office who's garnished their account?
Yeah, I'd say it's a mixture of, I'd say majority of it is to do with tax a lot of the time. So like a lot of people are caught up with the tax from COVID that they made, and also too with that plethora of money where they made that coin.
Yeah.
Obviously tax brackets were higher and
yeah.
And then there wasn't this, like, they weren't asking for it. So people were spending in, they were investing, they were doing venue renovations. They were sort of like, it seemed as like the government were helping us at the time. So people weren't just like using it and going to fucking Europe.
Yeah.
They were using it as a way to like polish their venues to hopefully attract more audience, because we were hoping that
wasn't there.
It wasn't, and then the audience didn't come. So you've got all these venues currently in Melbourne that are completely specced out with $1 million fit outs with no one in them. And it was to do with that COVID
Such
expansion.
a shame.
And then now those same venues are the ones getting chased down for the money they spent from tax. So taxes has really affected our industry heavily.
Yeah.
And then catching up on that COVID tax and the
flow.
relief.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that is the government regulation. So having to pay the insurance is going up, which is not government, but
the red tape.
Yeah, the red tape. And then the second to that is like APRA going up, security going up, wages going up. So venues you cannot. And then the other one is the alcohol tax. So, you're looking at a drink. So we used to make, as an example, right? We used to make 26% was the industry standard, 2018.
Yeah.
So if you sold a drink for $10, you were hoping to make about $2.60 out of it after everything. Pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Now I reckon you're looking closer to like 12, 13.
Yeah.
So and at that point, when you're running in a club where you've only got 12 hours to trade,
it
doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah, no,
so if you have one night where you're fucked and you're making 12%, you only need to do 6 of them in a row and you're gone. I think we could.
So this is in Melbourne, or is this nationally?
This is nationally.
Okay.
So I think we could actually see the death of nightclubs in the next 5 years.
Sydney's dead, bro. Like it's been dead for ages, right? Like there is no venues.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. Like you walk out on the main street of Sydney, like there's nothing open. Right, and it's getting worse, right? And I think with that culture, it was kind of slow to take off in Melbourne, and it was different in Melbourne. But following COVID, it's just it's fallen like a domino, man.
Yeah.
And so, Danny, like people understand because you're very vocal about what you do. You're happy to share your stories, as am I, man. Like, do people approach you like in this game and say to you, I'm stuffed.
I've had
what do I do? Like, where do I go? What are my options?
I've had 3 conversations today alone.
Sugar.
Yeah, so I spoke to one, I don't want to name any of these venues, so I spoke to a friend of mine who they had a landlord agreement, couldn't afford to run the business. He's been sort of like battling through that for the last 3 years. He's still kind of in the space, burnout, looking to leave, right? That was one guy I was chatting to just before I came here. The second one was another group talking about a cleaner, where it was like, we're owed a lot of money from this venue. I don't know if they're going to get through winter. And then the third one was, obviously we had that conversation. I was speaking to the security firm of the venue that I did the event at that went broke. So I would say most of my industry conversations these days are venues are fucked, or they're trying to figure out how to get out of it, or they're looking for new owners or buyers to come in, or they're trying to figure out a way to get government funding, or they're looking for sponsorship, because you can't, in the current model that used to work for 50 years, it no longer works, and nobody has the answer now.
So what you're telling me is not only, so like SBRs and small business restructures, tax debt restructures is sort of where I'm at, right? And I know, I mean, it's a fantastic tool or instrument that's been introduced, right, which is awesome. But I want to see light at the end of the tunnel. I want to be in a position like, okay, if we were to draw the line now, going forward, would you be able to trade profitably? And if so, okay, A, that's one, that's a minimum. B, are you able to kind of, make monthly repayments or equal contributions, monthly contributions to pay a percentage of your legacy debt? Let's say 20, 30, 40 cents in the dollar. Right? And if some of them are saying, yeah, we can do that, it's just that we can't get on top of the old stuff. So if we can crystallise that, pay a percentage of it over time and write it off, we'll be on our merry way. But what I'm hearing here from you is potentially that, mate, even if you were to address the legacy debt, pay 20, 30, 40 cents in the dollar of that, being able to trade profitably moving forward is actually going to be difficult in itself.
Difficult, not impossible. So if you're talking about guys that I'm talking about, like today I was having the combos with, these are guys who are fucking great hospos.
Right.
And these guys could figure out a way, like they'll pivot and move, but what is holding them back is legacy debt.
So it's the energy and the stress where they can't then focus on being the creatives that they are to make it generate. So it's the legacy debt that's killing them.
Yep. And this is the thing that's heartbreaking to me. Like, we're talking about it now, but I'm thinking. Hectic. But I'm like, so many proud hospos, like guys that I looked up to, in their 50s and whatnot, who'd worked in the space for so long. I'm going to the restaurants and it's a closing down restaurant party, or they're moving out of the industry and they're looking for other jobs, or they're having to leave their career roles. It's like, it's such a common conversation I'm having in the hospitality nightclub.
Where do they go?
They have to start again. Like, so these like 50-year-old guys.
What, to the fruit market like you, bro? Like,
literally, yeah. So I've got a friend of mine currently who's just sold his restaurant and he's looking at doing becoming a sale for pool toys. Like this guy here going back nightclub owner, some of the most successful nightclubs in Melbourne. He ran doors, super reputable, super respectful, someone that I looked up to, who's now 50 years old, who was like a pillar of our community. And not only that, he was like one of the kings of the industry, is now going to me, what do I do?
Yeah.
So watching this death of ego for these guys where they've done nothing wrong, it's an industry change in turn, we're watching them go, well, fuck, maybe I'm just not up to it anymore.
Yeah.
And watching their souls collapse.
Well,
is killing me to watch. You know? I fucking hate it.
But also too, on top of that, Danny, like let's open it up a little more, right? So there's those guys, the kingpin, the man, right? He's now struggling, right? So that breaks your heart. But then what about everyone who's relying upon him? Now you've mentioned that before, the cleaner, the security. The industries that people you just don't hear about, right? The other ones that support it is the domino effect.
It's a good one. So you talk about that, but I used to actually say it all the time. So we used to get, when I ran my club in Narre Warren, we would get sort of always attention from the council, we'd get attention from the government and the police. And I was like, what's the objective? So at the time, we were doing like 4 million rev, right? And 3 million of that revenue was going back to other companies and businesses and alcohol companies and locals and all that sort of stuff. And I used to always think, if they close us, like what's the on knock? Yeah, like what's the on knock to that $3 million disappears out of this community? Where the fuck does that go? And I feel like that's something that people don't talk about. If that nightclub in that area, which obviously also too contains trouble, like we used to speak to the police and they used to say to us that when you weren't running, we'd have more trouble because kids would still party.
Yeah.
They'd just party without CCTV, without security,
without
rules.
sort of semi-controlled too, isn't it?
It's controlled.
It's in that area, you know where it's at, and you know they're up to.
Because if those kids, there's 1,000 kids that go to that nightclub and now not going to be under CCTV, they're still going to party. Now they're going to vandalise, they're going to fight, and they're going to do whatever the fuck they want because there's no security guards watching them.
They're going to roll old Doris coming down the street with a bloody walker.
Of course. And then the second component of that too is that you now don't have $3 million that is going into your local community that is funding people who are in university, that are funding people who are migrated to that area, who are working these part-time jobs in the weekend as a second or third job to get by and pay their fucking rent.
Well, they don't have, exactly.
So I'm always like, why are we the enemy? You're like, I understand that, there's a world where a small portion of people in these venues do drugs, or back in the day you used to watch on TV all this gang stuff which doesn't exist anymore. I'm like, okay, if you break it down to it, we're a hub of music culture where people can basically build and hone a craft to then go on and become one of the exports around the world. Guys like Dom Dollar, biggest artist in fucking Australia, sold 250,000
So that's tickets. What you refer to as electric is Dom Dollar?
Yes, yeah. So like Dom sold 250, he beat AC/DC's record. That guy played in these clubs that we're seeing right
Dom?
now. Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's from Melbourne boy.
Is he?
He would have played behind us right now.
Mate, someone's banging on about Dom Dollar. What's a Dom Dollar, man?
But he sold out. He broke the AC/DC record. Like, so that guy played in these nightclubs. So you talk about that and how healthy that is for the world, or like, the opportunity that someone like that can have from playing in nightclubs. The second to that part is their secondary income that it gives to our youth, and it gives to the like sort of migrant populations that come through, or people who are struggling and need to get by. It's an additional job at night time that they can pick up. Millions and millions of revenue. And then lastly but not least, it's a relief. So people are coming into these controlled environments that are highly government and highly filmed. Well, how the fuck are we the bad guys?
Yeah, I know. And see, Danny, what's happening here is that I think in some ways, believe it or not, the government, the tax office, that they do have potential instruments like the Small Business Restructure, for example, where it might be an option for people to take up and to restructure that legacy debt and kind of move forward so they can appreciate that. Problem is twofold, in my opinion, right? One is that it's not communicated and people don't understand the repercussions, and two, mate, people don't trust it. And when people have general kind of standard questions, what's going to happen here? You don't want someone to come back and respond with, well, Section 437 of the Corps Act. Man, they want layman terms. And there are many more people like that who are just ordinary general people who just want to understand and not taken advantage of and trust people that can communicate that back to them. And I think it's really important, like the exposure of these options and the fact that they do have options. Do not bury your head in the sand. Mate, reach out. Someone like yourself, someone like me, right? We're here to help. And if we can't help, you know what? We'll know someone who can help you.
It's an interesting one with the SBRs, man, because like the SBR thing, I obviously, when I first spoke to you guys, I said, oh yeah, I do know what that is. And I was one of the minority, but there was so many people speaking to me going, hey, we're fucked because there's legacy tax debts. And I was like, have you heard of an SBR? And they were like, no, what is it? So it's like, the fact is, I got told
They don't know, mate.
I got told by a big group because I got a insolvency letter or whatever it was. And I was like, what is this? And I called them and they're like, oh, we're SBR, it's not an issue. Like, everything's all good.
Yeah.
I'm like, tell me about it. Because I was like, how do we do this?
Accountants don't know. So if
Now-
accountants don't know about it, lawyers don't know about it, and people have these different things. And to be honest with you, man, a lot of liquidators don't do them. Old school liquidators, because there's something new, right? So they're not familiar with it, so they're not pushing it. But mate, it's a phenomenal way to restructure your debt, to get, if you genuinely think going forward, man, I'm going to kill this and I'm going to give it everything and I'm going to be able to make a profit. I'm going to be able to save this venue. It's just that old legacy debt over there that I need to address. This is your option.
100.
And you come forward and you go, the reasons why it's happened, the reasons why you've failed, what you've done to ensure that that doesn't happen again, right? And the things you put in place, the tax office, and so long as you're, for me, bro, like the taxman just wants compliance. They just want interaction. You put your head in the sand, the tax office is going to come after you. Why? Because they think worst case. Yeah. But if you're open and honest, or if you just talk to them or lodge your documents or pick up the phone and give them a call, they will support you to a degree. And if you want to try and restructure that, if you want to try and compromise the principal debt, you will need to do a formal restructure, right? And that is through the SBR process. So if you're in debt, if you are struggling, if you do have stuff that is, like, man, I get people, I've done venues. I've done a couple of venues. Mate, I've done like Australian, I don't know what you want to call them, top of the bloody range artists, man, who mate, they couldn't perform. They make money out of doing their shows and their performances. COVID, they couldn't do anything. Plus, they didn't get any relief. So they've come through and restructured their debt and they're back on top. And bro, they're out there again. They're in the papers and doing all this type of stuff, right? There are options. Don't bury your head in the sand. Put your hand up. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, and I think that's like one thing with our industry, which is good. You know, obviously when you guys spoke to me about it, I was like, well, awesome, because we can tell them that. But the thing is, like, we're proud people in the nightclub industry. And at the same time, like, if someone does ask, everyone's like, dude, you need to do this. But like the fact that not everyone knows could have a knock to our actual community, which I believe in what I fight for is so important to places like Melbourne. Without culture and community in Melbourne and nightlife, we're a pretty boring fucking cold city. Yeah, that's my opinion, you know?
And I think, I don't know, like, I don't know what I can and can't say without getting in trouble because, you know, I'm an accountant, I'm CPA and all that kind of rubbish, man. But I'm feeling that they don't necessarily want to promote it because, how do I say this? This is what pisses me off, bro. It attracts those people who are trying to avoid paying tax as opposed to people that have gone through issues or circumstances or economic conditions that has forced them, like, it's out of their control and there's nothing they can do, right? That they want to be able to restructure, but then you get these people going, hey, bud, like, how do I not pay tax on this? Like, what are the tricks? What am I doing? And that? So that I feel that maybe it's restricted because they don't want to be seen as kind of promoting integrity of the tax system is the first and foremost, right?
Of course.
And so they don't want to compromise that, which I can understand as well. So there's a fine line. And so if someone comes to me and says, bro, I don't want to pay that tax. How do I get rid of paying that tax? I say, mate, pay your tax.
Yeah.
You know what? You go to the children's hospital and there's kids there sitting there waiting there with fevers and stuff. They can't see doctors. It's because you're not paying your tax, brother, right? But at the end of the day, if you got someone in who genuinely is outside of their control, who had one-off scenario like a COVID increase of charges, or for example, let's say it's a security guard where their main venue, let's say it's this place, went tits up, right? And then they can no longer actually continue to trade because they're not getting any money in. Well, hang on, they're going to put their hands up. That had nothing to do with them. Their biggest supplier is no longer operating, so they can't generate revenue. But guess what? They've got that tax debt that they intended to pay through that channel, which is no longer there, but they've gone around and found someone else. So they just need someone to help them address that legacy debt, and going forward, they're going to have a prosperous future. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's always we see a lot in our industry. It's like what's happening is that it's like, so someone's losing their promoter because the industry's pool's getting smaller, and they just need some time to get through it. You know, like
that's it.
So they can get some time to get through it, then they can make better decisions rather than being like kind of grabbing at anything. And this grabbing at anything is probably what's this creating these issues within our industry.
100%, and people wanting to. They listen to what they want to hear.
I actually had a friend of mine who works in civil, so a completely different industry. And he
I know
was like,
civil very well, yeah.
Yeah, like a 300K tax debt, and he was like worried and thinking about selling his house and doing all this stuff. And I got him into an SBR. So I was like, dude, do you know what this is? And he's like, never heard about it. I'm like, small business restructure. Basically what it is, it's another go. Like you can, so you don't have to close and liquidate and do all that tricky shit. You can basically work through it, get past it so you can continue and learn from the mistakes you made.
Absolutely.
And he's now done that and they're moving forward.
And guess what's happened with I can promise you what this guy's doing now, right? So what I'm seeing with these people that are going into SBRs, man, they're on top of when their lodgements are getting paid. they're forecasts. So when we do the process, we have to put a forecast forward. And how they're going to forecast, man, they carry that forward. So not only does it, help them address their legacy debt, it changes the way they do business. And therefore that they can actually they're prospective as opposed to being reactive, right? So they've got all this information now in front of them. Man, and they're making these decisions and making all these opportunities that once weren't there because they'll always just focus on putting out the bloody fires.
100%.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does, yeah. And as a business guy, that's fucking my life.
100%, yeah, absolutely.
Tax is the bane of my existence in the sense of like payment plans and how much it comes through and then understanding it. Like you said, like I'm a creative business guy. I'm great at bringing in revenue.
Yeah.
I don't understand tax. It changes all the time.
It's a speed on for you, bro.
And I have to I pay someone to navigate it, but I have to trust that what they're saying is right because the same thing is like, I don't understand it, man. Like even like you got PAYG tax and you've got income tax and then you've got, for us, it's like we've got wet tax in my industry. We've got,
of course.
We've got alcohol tax. Like I'm dealing with like 10 different types of tax. I'm not a fucking accountant. Yeah. So for me, it's like, well, how am I supposed to understand these?
Yeah. So my thing with that is mate, like don't just put all your eggs in one basket with your accountant because at the end of the day, if they miss something or if they're no longer, let's say that you get an accountant here and you both grow together and you kind of go up the line together, right? You actually outgrow your accountant sometimes. So whilst this guy used to just do your bazzers and stuff, but you're now this big company that needs a lot more, right? Mate, by simply blaming that guy, saying he didn't provide the service you needed, it's not an excuse.
Yeah.
Who does the responsibility lie with? It lies with the director. That's up to you to realise that you need a new advisor or someone else because it just ain't going to cut it when going to the tax office and say, oh, it's that guy's fault.
Yeah.
No, man, you're the director. You're the one signing off on it. He's there to guide you. He's not doing it. You need to make the decision to go to someone else. Right, and I couldn't be clearer in that. Like that is not an excuse. So if you're not getting the level of service that you think you need, or let's just say, for example, you see your accountant. I'll get this one guy, mate, I got a great accountant. Oh dear, yeah, you got a tax debt of $1 million. Yeah, but he's a great accountant. Why? He charges me $1,600 a year. Yeah, mate, that's why you got $1 million tax debt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you paid someone probably 4, 5, 6, whoever knows what grand, that would have been managed. And you would have been on top of that and you would be able to plan for it. But these guys that do everything at the year end and don't provide anything else, how can then someone come in and make an informed decision on past data?
Yeah.
Like you got to be there and then you go, right, we're starting to struggle. Why? You identify it and you move forward. But kind of making decisions based on data that is 12 to 18 months old, mate, yeah, you're heading in blind.
And there's another one too, as I think like people don't realise is that like when you're working in a business, you're actively working in the business. If you're a venue operator, for argument's sake, you're worrying about, bringing in people, you're worrying about paying your staff, you're worrying about getting your staff in, dealing with security, dealing with legislation, dealing with police, whatever. It's like, to slip, people look at it and go, well, how the fuck did you get into that debt in the first place? When you're in a business, it's super easy to do because you're like working through it and it's something you don't understand. You understand everything else. That's your crux of your company. And then all of a sudden you are in 300-400K tax debt, which comes up quickly because you're in different levers and there's different things happening and opening. So I saw one the other day, someone racked up 800K and a guy goes to me, how the fuck did he rack that up? I'm like, it's easy, dude. Like, it's actually easy to rack up that much debt. Yeah. I know you think it's not, but when you're operational and you're working week to week and worrying about doing whatever, it's easy to put your head in the sand, as you said. And then you look back and you're like, well, now I'm fucked. Like, so what am I going to do here? So you're still a good business guy. You just don't understand tax.
Well, I'll add on something on top of that, right? I had a guy recently come over to me. He's just like, man, I've got this super debt, right? It's hanging over my head. It's like $300,000 or $400,000. I just don't know how it's got it, but I don't know where I can get to. So what had actually happened was that whenever you pay super late, right, it must go to the tax office for SGC. So even if you're a day late, right, if you pay your tax as soon as it's a day late, it has to go to the tax office. And the reason why, the whole idea of it, without getting too technical, is that the tax office apply like an admin fee for processing it, but then they also add like a general interest charge to it. So if that money was paid to the fund at a particular point in time, that money, or the employee would have earned money on that being invested in the fund, right? So the whole idea is it goes to the tax office, they do their admin fee, they charge a general interest charge to it, and then the tax office then remit it to the super funds. But people are like, right, I've been 3 or 4 weeks late here, stuff it. I've just got the money now. I'm just going to pay it directly to the super fund. Now, and so that money's been paid, the principal amount's been paid. So let's say, for example, it's $200,000. That's been paid over to the super fund. So in the director's mind, that money's been paid over here, but in the tax officer's mind, that hasn't been paid at all, right? Because they haven't remitted it to the taxman.
And you're
So
accumulating faults.
so this guy's sitting there going, man, I've got a $500,000 super liability. I don't know how I've got it. It actually didn't exist because he's paid the vast majority of the principal debt to there. They just haven't registered it or lodged their SGC statement with the tax office to recognise that payment.
Fuck.
So he came to me, I go, bro, you don't have a tax debt. You've got a small little component here. You haven't got the ATO's admin fee and that GIC charge to the super. You can pay that. You can afford that. But the majority of that, which is like, let's say 85% of that notice that you've got, you've already paid it. Oh my God, you saved my life. And I'm
Crazy.
like, man, this is standard stuff.
Yeah.
How does your accountant not tell you this? How do you not know? And they go to me, they're thankful. They're like, man, you could have put me into an appointment here. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, well, man, it's not what it's about. It's about...
I'd say the number one the thing that I get too from business owners is like, how the fuck do I have this much tax? Like, so they just feel like they're always paying it, it's always on top of them. And it's like they don't understand it. So all they know is they're accumulating it. And I think a lot of people would be going, is this right? So I pay my tax and I actually would not even know if I'm paying the right amount. You sort of trust someone to be able to do it. But it's like you get your bill, you get your statements and whatnot, you sort of like hope is right. And I've been running business for 20 years, yeah? And so I feel like I have a good understanding and overall of it, but there's no doubt in my mind there's guys out there paying or double paying stuff or not paying
100%.
stuff because they don't understand what's coming through.
They don't know the basic stuff.
Yeah.
So tell me this, right? So we touched on about your music festival or show or gig that you had standard, and it's been cancelled. What's the flow on from that?
Massive. So we all lost money, obviously. We lost around about $1 million, probably a little bit more than that. That was from, and if, kind of in sense, the first one lost money, second one broke even, third one we had to cancel, but it wasn't the Melbourne show. We tried to grow. So we tried to grow into Queensland. And in Queensland, basically, we weren't getting...
Was this a brand? Like
it was called Hello Sunshine. So, and we didn't connect in Queensland because it was a new market, but we were connecting in Melbourne, but the loss that we were going to wear in Queensland was way too high and was going to eat well above the break-even in Melbourne. So we had to make that call to quit. So then we worked out how we're going to like...
Hedge your losses, so to
hedge our
speak.
losses.
Yeah. And
then we worked out, okay, cool, well, we can lose 500 grand, which is a lot more than potentially losing $1 million.
Yeah.
And then we actually got to a position where we were like, I'm probably going to lose 200 here. So it was going to look okay because we'd done a sideshow with their artists at the time, so it was Stone Temple Pilots and Wolfmother.
Oh, yeah.
And we did a show at the Palais in Melbourne, which broke even.
Yeah.
And then we had one in Queensland coming up. So that was, we transferred tickets across. We had to do like 3.5. We might have lost like 50K. So we're looking at probably maybe losing $250,000. Still bad, but better than half.
Yeah.
Cyclone comes through and we have to cancel the show. So we had 3 days notice and there was no disaster relief. So then we got stuck with everything. So we had to pay the artists still because they were committed to it and we paid them. And then we had to pay portions of providers and toilets and all these different things. Some people gave us relief, a lot of people didn't because it wasn't kind of their fault either.
But they've committed to
Correct.
things too, right? In preparation.
Yes. So we had I think we had 2 days before we had to notice it. So then that blew out an additional 400. So we ended up losing like 600 grand on top of the 400 grand we'd already lost. So we lost $1 million in total. And it was sort of somewhat unpredictable, even though we did whatever we could to hedge their bets. The only kind of, not bonus, but like shining star is that we're able to use that tax to pay down tax. It's like a tax credit. Which is the kind of only a business guy would understand that. But it's like this tax loss
there's a
to
silver
offset
lining,
tax.
so to speak.
Yeah. And I think it's just a way for us to like make ourselves feel better.
So you mentioned off air, whatever this is called, right? That you're in a situation where you could have considered an SBR. Is that kind of that scenario, or is it okay?
Different one? So that one there is my alcohol company, and kind of what happened again. Started a company, it was new to us, and we didn't understand what tax properly. So it's a tax that is like, it's a very complicated tax, and we didn't understand it completely, so we hadn't paid it properly.
Right.
So we accumulated, we paid it, but we hadn't paid it completely
properly. So
properly.
did you get audited? Is that what happened?
We did, yeah. So we got audited, and it wasn't from us. It was from a guy who got caught not doing it. So a guy was paying, not paying wet tax, and he triggered the ATO, and we had done a deal with him, handshake. I work in nightclubs. That might sound like the dumbest thing that I didn't have a contract, but in our world, your handshake is your word,
it's
right?
Everything. Yeah.
So he told us that he was going to continue to pay it. The industry standard is that he would pay the wet tax, and he didn't. So when he got audited, they came back and was like,
they followed the path.
Trailed to us, and they were like, hey, you owe it was a lot, like $300,000 or more maybe. You owe this in tax. And we're like, well, we don't, because this guy pays it and that's the industry standard. And like, where's the paper? Didn't exist. He liquidated,
Yeah, you
went
can't
under.
say, here, take a photo of the handshake, can you? Yeah.
Correct. And exactly. And the ATO were like, hey, you're accountable to this. So their mistake in their first year, which we then rectified and were moved on and never fucked up again, on top of this second, which got founded because of this guy who did the run on his tax, I guess. And on knock of that and the uncommitment of contract left us with this gaping hole. The reason why we didn't do it, we looked at SBR and we found out, thank God, through other people that I knew had done them. And they kind of told me, because I was like, this business is killing it and doing stupid amounts of revenue. We may have to close this because of this tax debt.
Yeah.
It kind of was a mistake. It wasn't like planned. We weren't doing anything dodgy. It was legitimately a mistake, right? Or a beginner's mistake. Like we're taking baby steps. We're in the infancy of our business. The reason why we didn't do the SBR in the end was because we deal with Coles and Dan's. Right. And as you know, there's a letter that goes out to everybody. And we were concerned that would shake confidence within those big corporations. And now they make
So you had trade accounts with these guys?
Yeah.
Or just you had a contract to supply?
Correct.
And you were worried
contracts.
that they weren't willing to support you?
Yeah, because we're like one of the largest independent alcohol companies. So we were like, they get a letter that says that we're in a SBR. They don't understand it because it's not well promoted. And they might be worried with our capacity to continue to facilitate them. So we decided to make the decision to pay it over a period of 2 years.
That's a tough.
And we didn't want to ask them. I don't want to call up them and be like, hey, we decided to.
Did you try and speak to the tax? Like, was part of that GIC, so general interest charge or penalties that all applied?
Of course, yeah. A big portion of that was penalties.
Were you able, I mean, for me, like I know a lot of people who, well, not a lot of people, but a select few who are phenomenal at maybe negotiating, a reduction of their GIC or their penalties.
We didn't get any of that yet. So like they're saying to us when we get towards the end of the tenure of the loan.
And that's outside of an external appointment. So there are people who are very good at approaching the tax office and saying, guys, this is the situation. This is the reasons why they don't want to necessarily go into an SBR. Would you be able to or willing to shave off some of the GIC or some of the penalties and interest to keep this alive so you can get some payment in? Otherwise, there's a real threat that this could go in liquidation, and you know what? They're going to lose jobs. They're going to lose everyone else. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you're in that scenario, man, even if you don't want to do an SBR, approach the right people because there are other options. So say, for example, that you took on a real risk in the sense that you didn't want to do an SBR because of those reasons that you've discussed. But what if you couldn't actually make those payments? And then, like, fuck, it's too hard. We just walk away from it. There were other people there that could have helped you, assist you in striking a deal or coming to an arrangement or a payment arrangement of some description with the tax office.
Yeah.
You said 2 years. What if you needed 3? What if you needed 4? You know what I'm saying? So there are options. I don't want people suffering in silence. The last thing I want, or what I want, what the government wants, or whatever it is that people going home and tossing and turning, can't sleep and aren't focusing on trading their business and achieving the highest kind of possible level of success because they're having to worry about legacy debts and issues that were created out of something that wasn't necessarily their fault.
Most businesses, I would say, that I speak to are tossing and turning and worrying and think because of legacy debt to do with the ATO and tax.
Well, there's options. And I'm not trying to say that every single time it's going to work because it might not, right? If your compliance history, like your BAS lodgements and stuff isn't good, if you've been trying, sometimes people go, yeah, my BASs are great, I've been lodging on time and spending tax office, and we get appointed and we find out that's actually not the case. Well, sorry, man, like, you're pushing crap up a hill there, but speak out, find those options, see the solutions, because you don't need to suffer in silence. There might be an option for you, and if you're not getting the answer or essentially or the advice or opinion that you think it might be there, mate, find someone else, seek a second opinion, because eventually it is. And don't get me wrong, you don't want to just go and sign up to someone or deal with someone who's going to tell you everything that they want to hear because, generally speaking, if it sounds too good, it usually kind of is. And there's a lot of scams and frauds and stuff going on there. But go through the professional channels, reach out, ask people's experience, and you know what? There might be something in there rather than having to just pack up shop and walk away because that's the last thing that everyone wants.
100%.
Yeah.
True, man. Like, that's really great advice, and it's good to hear that. And, I've obviously said before that I'm sort of like trying to educate people in all ways and shapes when it comes to entertainment, comes to nightclubs, comes to music. So to see
I
here,
love music, man.
Yeah, we talked
Keep
about it
doing
before.
what you do, bro. Like, we're banging on about Like some people that
Yeah.
we both know, like HP boys and some of those type of fellas, man. Like for me, that can I just say that takes away a lot of my stress. I mean, whacking in Spotify and listening to some of these songs, phenomenal. Where would I be if they're not there?
Yeah.
And they won't be there if there's none of these venues that are actually being able to push them and to make them popular.
100%. I think having people understand something that we don't get in our industry and having people be able to be aware of that is super important. So thank you for giving of this opportunity to explain, even to me, you know, I don't know all this stuff. So that people that work in my space probably can maybe use it.
That's what it's
and live
about.
to fight another day.
Mate, and don't be afraid. Like, there are normal people out there like myself, bro. Like, and no one judges. But it's not just about helping the person who owes the money, right? You're doing an SBR, mate, a small business restructure. The whole idea is if it falls over, there's an opportunity. When I say it falls over, that the plan doesn't get accepted. If the plan doesn't get accepted, well, there's a possibility it'll go into liquidation. Most of the time, if it goes in liquidation, the chances are there's not going to be a return to the creditors. So the whole idea with the SBR is getting the most back to those creditors as possible to restructure those debts. So it's not about actually tossing and turning and saving the director, which it's a solution. You're providing them with options. You're getting the money as much back as possible, given the circumstances, to those people who really need it, the creditors, man. And that's what's really, you sort of owe that obligation to them too, man.
For sure.
To seek the right advice, because they're dependent on that.
And that's why those same people aren't sleeping, because they're worried about not paying them.
100%. And we've got to go shortly, but a restructure is purely this, right? Is that at a particular point in time, you go into business on certain financial conditions, right? So, let's do a deal, man. Like, yep, sweet. We've got all this revenue behind us, and we're going to do this, and we're going to be able to pay your bills. But then something happens, man, like a COVID or whatever, and just kills the business. So they're sitting there going, rightio, well, look, at that time when I entered into the agreement with you, I was going to be able to pay or meet those obligations that I shut my hand on or signed the agreement for. But something has happened where I can no longer fulfill what I owe you, 100 cents in the dollar. So, man, based on my current circumstances, I'll be able to pay you this much money of that legacy debt. And moving forward, I'll be able to pay to meet those obligations. But circumstances have changed. I can't pay that. Can you accept that? Let us then let us kind of trade going forward, where we maintain a good relationship. We're able to maintain the staff, and everyone wins a happy life. And that's a restructure.
100.
Right? That's a restructure, and where everyone wins.
Yeah.
And so that's it, man. Like, yeah, man, I'm pretty passionate about this stuff, and I can see you are too, man.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's just about solutions and reaching out, and yeah, man. And Danny, mate, I really appreciate you taking the time out, mate. We kind of tossed and turned and changing the times and whatnot, but we finally got there, and mate, I'm really glad we did. So
thanks for having me, Dan, man. I appreciate what you're doing.
Legend. Good on you, bro. Take care.
Sweet.
That's awesome.